You are listening to The Brycen Show, episode 002 of the Religion and Occult series. The Mysteries, or an introduction to. This episode is going to serve as an introduction to the study of the teachings of the ancient mysteries. I believe this topic is extremely important to anyone studying anything of a paranormal, UFO, or occult nature. Many things have been hidden from the common man's perceptions of religion and spirituality, and this will be made apparent to you as we go along. This is going to be a mini-series within the Religion Occult series. It will probably take me years to complete in its entirety, but I assure you it will be worth it. I would like to remind everyone as I begin this series that this is not, I repeat, not what I personally believe. These are the teachings of the ancient mystery schools. Some of this is truth, some of this is metaphor, and some is just outright bullshit. Anyways, let's get into it. First reading will be from Revelation 17, starting with verse 1. And there came one of the angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying to me, Come here. I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sits upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints, and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said to me, Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carries her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou saw was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, and when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sits. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goes into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And he says to me, The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. And after these things, this is now Revelation 18, and after these things I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lighted with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven, saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquity. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works, in the cup which she has filled to her double. How much she has glorified herself, and lived deliciously. So much torment and sorrow give her, for she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning, and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. And the kings of the earth, who have committed fornication, and lived deliciously with her, shall bewail her, and lament for her, when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torments, saying, Alas, alas, the great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth her merchandise any more, the merchandise of gold, silver, precious stones, pearls, fine linen, and purple, and silk, and scarlet, and all Thyine wood, and all manner vessels of ivory, and all manner vessels of most precious wood, and of brass, and iron, and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men, souls of men. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. The merchants of these things, which were made rich by her, shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, that great city, that was clothed in fine linen, and purple, and scarlet, and decked with gold, and precious stones, and pearls. For in 1 hour so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster, and all the company in ships, and sailors, and as many as trade by sea, stood afar off, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads, and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city, wherein we made rich all that had ships in the sea, by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour is she made desolate. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. And the voice of harpers and musicians, and of pipers and trumpeters, shall be heard no more at all in thee. And no craftsman, of whatsoever craft he be, shall be found any more in thee, and the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee. And the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth. For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. And in her was found the blood of prophets, and of saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth. And that was from the Bible, of course, the book of Revelation, 17, 18. We'll go into chapter 12 a little bit later. And I want you, actually, if you've listened to the Tarot series, I think some of the descriptions of the Great Beast will sound familiar to you as some of the cards of the Tarot. So these ideas and this person that is being described is obviously talked about in other parts of the world, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Next, I'm going to be reading from Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teaching of All Ages. Chapter 2. When confronted with a problem involving the use of the reasoning faculties, individuals of strong intellect keep their poise and seek to reach a solution by obtaining facts bearing upon the question. Those of immature mentality, on the other hand, when similarly confronted, are overwhelmed. While the former may be qualified to solve the riddle of their own destiny, the latter must be led like a flock of sheep and taught in simple language. They depend almost entirely upon the ministrations of the shepherd. The Apostle Paul said that these little ones must be fed with milk, but that meat is the food of strong men. Thoughtlessness is almost synonymous with childishness, while thoughtfulness is symbolic of maturity. There are, however, but few mature minds in the world, and thus it was that the philosophic religious doctrines of the pagans were divided to meet the needs of these two fundamental groups of human intellect. One philosophic, the other incapable of appreciating the deeper mysteries of life. To the discerning few were revealed the esoteric, or spiritual teachings, while the unqualified many received only the literal, or exoteric interpretations. In order to make simple the great truths of nature and the abstract principles of natural law, the vital forces of the universe were personified, becoming the gods and goddesses of the ancient mythologies. While the ignorant multitudes brought their offerings to the altars of Priapus and Pan, deities representing the procreative energies, the wise recognized in these marble statues only symbolic concretions of great abstract truths. In all cities of the ancient world were temples for public worship and offering. In every community also were philosophers and mystics, deeply versed in nature's lore. These individuals were usually banded together, forming seclusive philosophic and religious schools. The more important of these groups were known as the Mysteries. Many of the great minds of antiquity were initiated into these secret fraternities by strange and mysterious rites, some of which were extremely cruel. Alexander Wilder defines the Mysteries as, quote, sacred dramas performed at stated periods. The most celebrated were those of Isis, Sabazius, Cybele, and Eleusis, end quote. After being admitted, the initiates were instructed in the secret wisdom which had been preserved for ages. Plato, an initiate of one of these sacred orders, was severely criticized because in his writings he revealed to the public many of the secret philosophic principles of the Mysteries. Every pagan nation had, and has, not only its state religion, but another, into which the philosophic elect alone have gained entrance. The philosophic elect alone have gained entrance. Many of these ancient cults vanished from the earth without revealing their secrets, but a few have survived the test of ages, and their mysterious symbols are still preserved. Much of the ritualism of Freemasonry is based on the trials to which candidates were subjected by the ancient hierophants before the keys of wisdom were entrusted to them. Few realize the extent to which the ancient secret schools influence contemporary intellects, and through those minds, posterity. Robert McCoy, 33rd degree, in his General History of Freemasonry, pays a magnificent tribute to the part played by the ancient mysteries in the rearing of the edifice of human culture. He says, in part, it appears that all the perfection of civilization and all the advancements made in philosophy, science, and art among the ancients are due to those institutions which, under the veil of mystery, sought to illustrate the sublimest truths of religion, morality, and virtue, and impress them on the hearts of their disciples. Their chief object was to teach the doctrine of one God, the resurrection of man to eternal life, the dignity of the human soul, and to lead the people to see the shadow of the deity in the beauty, magnificence, and splendor of the universe. With the decline of virtue, which has preceded the destruction of every nation of history, the mysteries became perverted. Sorcery took the place of the divine magic. Indescribable practices, such as the Bacchanalia, were introduced, and perversion ruled supreme, for no institution can be any better than the members of which it is composed. In despair, the few who were true sought to preserve the secret doctrines from oblivion. In some cases they succeeded, but more often the arcanum was lost, and only the empty shell of the mysteries remained. Thomas Taylor has written, quote, man is naturally a religious animal. From the earliest dawning of the consciousness, man has worshipped and revered things as symbolic of the invisible, omnipresent, indescribable thing, concerning which he could discover practically nothing. The pagan mysteries opposed the Christians during the early centuries of their church, declaring that the new faith did not demand virtue and integrity as requisites for salvation. Celsus expressed himself on the subject in the following caustic terms. And just to break away from the reading for a second, you will find in Mystery Babylon and the study of the secret societies, the ancient mysteries, that they definitely do hate Christianity. So they look at it as a perversion of their religion. And remember, this is a religion that is practiced by virtually almost every secret society in the world today. Ones that are of a religious nature, but we'll get into that. And to get back to the book, quote, "That I do not, however, accuse the Christians more bitterly than truth compels, may be conjectured from hence that the criers who call men to other mysteries proclaim as follows: Let him approach whose hands are pure and whose words are wise. And again others proclaim, Let him approach who is pure from all wickedness, whose soul is not conscious of any evil, and who leads in just and upright life. And these things are proclaimed by those who promise a purification from error. Let us now hear who those are that are called to the Christian mysteries. Whoever is a sinner, whoever is unwise, whoever is a fool, and whoever in short is miserable, him the kingdom of God will receive. Do you not therefore call a sinner an unjust man, a thief, a housebreaker, a wizard, and one who is sacrilegious, and a robber of sepulchres? What other persons would the crier nominate, who should call robbers together?" It was not the true faith of the early Christian mystics that Celsus attacked, but the false forms that were creeping in even during his day. The ideals of early Christianity were based upon the high moral standards of the pagan mysteries, and the first Christians who met under the city of Rome used as their places of worship the subterranean temples of Mithra, who is a solar sun god, from whose cult has been borrowed much of the sacerdotalism of the modern church. Now, I'd like to remind you, again, this is not what I believe, but this is what is taught in the mystery schools. I myself would consider myself a Christian. I follow the words of Jesus Christ. But I would agree that a lot of it has probably been corrupted through the years. And what we see now as modern day Christianity probably resembles nothing to what it really truly was, in the beginning anyway. Alright, to get back into it, the ancient philosophers believed that no man could live intelligently who did not have a fundamental knowledge of nature and her laws. Before man can obey, he must understand, and the mysteries were devoted to instructing man concerning the operation of divine law in the terrestrial sphere. Few of the early cults actually worshipped anthropomorphic deities, although their symbolism might lead one to believe they did. They were moralistic rather than religionistic, philosophic rather than theologic. They taught man to use his faculties more intelligently, to be patient in the face of adversity, to be courageous when confronted by danger, to be true in the midst of temptation, and most of all, to view a worthy life as the most acceptable sacrifice to God and his body as an altar sacred to the deity. Sun worship played an important part in nearly all the early pagan mysteries, and you'll see sun worship everywhere as we go along. This indicates the probability of their Atlantean origin, for the people of Atlantis were sun worshippers. The solar deity was usually personified as a beautiful youth with long golden hair to symbolize the rays of the sun. This golden sun god was slain by wicked ruffians who personified the evil principle of the universe. By means of certain rituals and ceremonies symbolic of purification and regeneration, this wonderful god of good was brought back to life and became the savior of his people. The secret processes whereby he was resurrected symbolized those cultures by means of which man is able to overcome his lower nature, master his appetites, and give expression to the higher side of himself. The mysteries were organized for the purpose of assisting the struggling human creature to reawaken the spiritual powers which, surrounded by the flaming ring of lust and degeneracy, lay asleep within his soul. In other words, man was offered a way by which he could regain his lost estate. In the ancient world, nearly all the secret societies were philosophic and religious. During the medieval times, they were chiefly religious and political, although a few philosophic schools remained. In modern times, secret societies in the Occidental countries are largely political or fraternal, although in a few of them, as in Masonry, the ancient religious and philosophic principles still survive. And that was from Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages. Manly P. Hall was actually a Freemason, and I'll do a show on him later, but he's probably one of the most prolific writers on Freemasonry, other than, him, Albert Pike, people like that. And here we'll go back to the Book of Revelation. And I really actually would like you to go back and look at the tarot cards episode before I get into this part, because you'll see that these two women actually are part of the major arcana of the tarot, and very interesting. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she being with child, travailing in birth, and pained to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God, and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days. 1,260 days, or that'd be 1206. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. And the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation, and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives to the earth. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and the sea, for the devil is come down to you, having great wrath, because he knows that he has but a short time. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly to the wilderness, into her place, where she is nourished for a time, and times, and half a time. For a time, times, and half a time, from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his mouth water as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth, and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. And the dragon was wroth with the woman, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God, and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. Now this next piece, I'm not entirely sure how to even pronounce the website, but it's www.skoalamysteralore.com/en/school/origins.html. That's www.skoalamysteralore.com. Until very recently, the mystery schools have been a very secret institution. The teaching of the mystery schools contain the innermost knowledge of life, and these teachings are deeply rooted in the old shamanic and tribal learnings and ways of wisdom. According to the written history held within the library of the order, the mystery schools were established in 7 different locations. In past times, these 7 schools were established by the Atlanteans. In tradition, the mysteries are taught in secret to those who are true seekers and find a true teacher. Once an individual is initiated and complete in their knowledge and empowerment, they are sent out into the world to teach. Which obviously this website is looking at it from a certain pro-mystery school perspective. Anyways, the Atlantean visionaries foresaw the cataclysm soon to befall their continent. Their leaders, visionaries, and high initiates were guided to send expeditions into the world to find 7 locations where energy from the earth was abundant. Today we call these locations power spots. They are formed where the ley lines running through the earth cross a certain number of times. When the energy ley lines cross many times, an energetic vortex is created. Yeah, these things are known as different things, energy vortexes or whatever. I think something that I should include in here is that there are 7 mystery schools or locations in Atlantis, and back in the day, people only knew about the 7 planets. Sometimes the moon and sun were included, sometimes they weren't. Because surprisingly, the idea of the heliocentric theory is actually much older than you would think. Anyways, the Atlantean explorers were to build a temple and mystery school on each of these locations. Their intent was to preserve the wisdom and spiritual traditions of Atlantis. These 7 expeditions took many years to complete. Atlantean masters went out of Atlantis with entire cities, went out in search of the power vortexes over a 4,000-year period. I remember this is from that website. But anyways, after the fall of Atlantis, the 7 schools created an 8th location in Egypt. This is a communal ceremonial center. They established the practice of holding an annual conclave to come together in an effort to preserve the Atlantean ways. All the Atlantean masters and their initiates gathered to celebrate and learn from each other. Conclaves were held. I don't know if I could. This is substantiated, but conclaves were held to maintain the teachings and traditions of the Atlantean mysteries generation after generation. Today, our mystery school honors this tradition. Anyways, but also in the mystery schools, you hear a lot about Atlantis and the perfect society, the utopia. So yeah, all these ideas, mystery school. Anyways, this is Masonry as a Mystery. Talk delivered to Garfield Lodge, Du Bois, Pennsylvania, October 1st, 1987, by John A. Johnson, Ph.D. The title of my talk tonight, brethren, is Masonry as a Mystery. Masonry is, in reality, many, many things. It is on the surface a fraternity, a brotherhood where men can commune with each other as friends. It is an institution that encourages high moral conduct, leadership, and good works. It is an opportunity to engage in meaningful rituals that date back to the dawn of history. Yet all of these functions, fellowship, moral development, leadership, community service, ritual work, are fulfilled by numerous other non-Masonic clubs. Organizations and institutions such as the Lions Club, Rotary, Kiwanis Club, the IOOF, Fraternal Order of Eagles, Moose, Elks, ethnic clubs, hose companies, and of course all religious organizations. Is Freemasonry different from all of these organizations? What makes us unique? I would like to suggest that what makes us unique is that Masonry is a genuine, bona fide mystery school. The fundamental purpose of mystery schools is to provide instruction through ritual and allegory on recognizing our divine nature and achieving complete union with God. All mystery schools teach that we are divine beings, but have all fallen, that is, separated from God and our true nature, by becoming trapped or enslaved in the material world, consumed by earthly passions. The fall of Adam and Eve is an allegory describing each and every one of us. Now you can already tell in this, and we'll get into this more later, that one of the big things with the mystery school is that it claimed to be able to make man God. elevate man to a higher state of evolution. And as you'll see as we go on, evolution is much older than you would think, as well as Charles Darwin was an initiate of the mystery school. Anyways, back to this lecture. Now, a person who falls from a great height will break his bones and will need to be mended, put back together. Because we have fallen from God, we also need mending. The word religion, religare, means binding back. We say that Masonry is not a religion per se, but is religious in nature. Did you ever consider wheat that means? Craft Masonry does not present itself as purely Christian, for genuine mystery schools transcend all religions and nationalities. One world, one religion. St. Paul says in Colossians 3:11, "There is neither Greek nor Jew, circumcised nor uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave nor free, but Christ is all and in all." And in 1 Corinthians 3:3, he exhorts us to be free from strife and division. Jesus also forbade sectarianism, saying, "Do not forbid him, for he is not against us, is for us." Masonry is religious, however, that it describes how to repair our broken selves. The allegory of the building of King Solomon's temple with its destruction and rebuilding, as described in Royal Ark Masonry, symbolizes the building or reconstruction of our spiritual bodies, of regaining our lost divine natures. How do we know that Masonry is a mystery school? According to scholars, the ancient mystery schools differed in detail, but contained three characteristic features common to all of them. Let us see if Masonry shares those three features. The first feature is a ceremonial, symbolic death and rebirth of the new initiate by acting out the part of the school's founder, or the solar deity. And indeed, all Master Masons act out the part of Hiram Abiff. Of course, Hiram himself plays the same role as Jesus in Christianity, or of any of the other founders of the world's great religions, as stated in Colossians 2:12. The initiate is buried with him in baptism, wherein also ye are risen with him. The second feature of mystery schools is a set of sacraments, or rituals, consisting of three stages. The first is purification. Sometimes this takes the form of sprinkling water. Sometimes it refers to moral purification. Consider, my brethren, the tools, lessons, and admonitions given to the entered apprentice. The candidate for this degree is said to desire light more than anything. The Masonic term Louis, son of a Mason, refers to the birth of the divine light in one's self. The word Louis itself derives from the Eleusis, place of the Eleusinian mysteries and other Greek terms for light. Remember, Eleusis was mentioned earlier. The second stage is illumination. In our fellow craft degree, we mentioned the 7 liberal arts. The original purpose of these arts can be seen in the root libertas. The root boy, if I could talk, it could help. Libertas. The liberal arts were designed to liberate or free the soul from the defects and illusions of matter. The third stage is contemplation. In the third degree of masonry, we are required to contemplate what it means to be a master mason. Hopefully we discover that a true master mason is master of himself, rising above the wild passions of lesser developed men. The third feature of the mystery schools is the revelation of gnosis soterius, or secret knowledge of salvation. Gnosis meaning knowledge. There are numerous references to this hidden wisdom in the New Testament. I want to break in right here. And you can see on the symbol of the Freemasons, the G in between the compass and the square, and that actually stands for gnosis, or knowledge. Some people say it stands for God, but as you get farther into the initiations, which, according to what I read about them, since I've never been initiated, but according to what I read, the farther you get into the initiations, the more the deeper you can delve into the symbology and all that. But eventually, is revealed, the revelation, that gnosis is what the G represents. whatever. I think I pounded that in enough. Back to it. There are numerous references to this hidden wisdom in the New Testament. Originally I planned to cite them all, but found that there are simply too many. I never realized how much biblical material is relevant to Masonry until I looked. Perhaps that is why Brother George Lines so fervently instructs new Masons to read their Bibles. So that is also an interesting piece. I think that's good enough for an introductory episode, just to familiarize what we're talking about when we reference the Mystery School or the Mystery School of Babylon or Mystery Babylon, which the interpretation of the biblical part of Mystery Babylon is, my own opinion for sure. But anyways, yeah,